weekend. According to my watch, it was 28 times. And usually that's a sad reality to realize that, 28 times, it's not the weekend. But then I realized it was Thursday of Writers Week, and we had 2 more glorious days to enjoy. So I want to start by thanking a few people who make the Writers Week dream a reality. First, the boosters. Thank you for your support and generosity. Writers Week wouldn't happen to the extent that it does without you. And then obviously the English department, all the other departments who help support us, and tech crew who makes things run smoothly behind the scenes, and of course all of you. So thank you. Okay. All right. So we've heard so many great stories this week. So I think we all know the power of a great story. We've heard stories of fiction, and we've heard stories of truth. But what happens when a story born of fiction becomes the believed truth? How do you go back and recover the truth, especially when it has dire consequences for the people living the real lives of that fiction? That is the challenge that Tonika Johnson and Maria Kriesen faced and continue to face when they do their very important work in Chicago. Tonika is a photographer, social justice artist, and lifelong resident of Chicago's South Side neighborhood of Inglewood. Her work seeks to reframe the narrative of South Side communities, aiming to peel back layers of fiction and inequity to reveal the truth, humanity, and beauty of a community and people who live just 36 miles away from here. She's also a 2025 MacArthur Foundation Genius Grant Award winner, which if you don't know what that is, it's a pretty big deal. And Maria is a liberal arts and sciences distinguished professor of sociology at the University of Illinois at Chicago. She has spent decades teaching, researching, and writing. She has also co-authored books about residential segregation and racial attitudes. She has co-authored one such book with Tonika that we have on sale here today, which is Don't Go, Stories of Segregation and How to Disrupt It. Tonika and Maria are living proof that change can start with something as simple as a greeting, a walk into a new neighborhood, and an open mind. It doesn't take billions of dollars or 10 years of legislation to create change. It just takes a human tapping into their humanity. And these are 2 really incredible humans that we have on stage today. So please join me in welcoming Tonika Johnson and Maria Kriesen.
Hi, everyone. How are you? Oh, this is really close. Hold on. So Maria and I are going to talk to you about our book, Don't Go. Okay? And just to give you a little idea of what the book is about, I am going to ask you all a question that I need your honest response to. Because it is this question that put Maria and I on the path to creating this book, okay? And the question that I'm going to ask you is rooted in the fact that I am from the South Side of Chicago, and I'm an artist who created this project called Folded Map, even though I'm not going to get into that specific project right now. But I want you to know that this question is the foundation kind of the work that I do. So you ready for the question? Yeah. All right, cool. I want you to raise your hand and keep them raised if you have heard or if you have been told that the South Side of Chicago is dangerous and to don't go. Raise them, keep them raised, raise them high. Now everybody look around. That is everybody, okay? You can put your hands down. That is literally what the book is about. It is about the history behind why people are told that, but more importantly, people who are sharing their stories about being given that advice, but even better than that, what they learned about themselves and race when they disrupted that advice. And so your answer to that question is literally the reason that this book is so important to me, because I am from the South Side, okay? And I want to give you all a little bit of an insight of what it's like being from the South Side of Chicago, but more specifically, Inglewood. And so I'm going to play for you a small, well, a short-ish clip of my folded map project film that shares with you my origin story of growing up on Chicago's South Side, Inglewood. And I gave that long introduction so that they can dim the lights so you all can see it. Perfect, okay. Of course, the sound isn't working. I'm particular. I want you all to hear the whole thing. So hold on. You all gotta hear the little. Okay. I'm from Southside Chicago, a little bit. Inglewood neighborhood. I'm sure the words you've heard to describe Inglewood include black, dangerous, poor, gun violence. However, Inglewood is where I grew up and still live. Before I tell you about Folded Map, I'd like you to think about how you came to live in the neighborhood that you grew up in, or where you live now. What influenced your decision? Who did you talk to? And while you're thinking about that, I'm going to tell you how I came to live in Inglewood. It all started with my grandmother, Marilyn G. Tenney. She came to Chicago from down south in 1962, on the tail end of the Great Migration. She wanted a better life, to have a professional career. And she achieved it when she came to Chicago and got a job as an administrative assistant at the local Social Security office, what black folks would call a good government job. For 7 years, she saved her money while working at the Social Security office to purchase a beautiful two-flat brick building on 62nd and Loomis in Inglewood, the building that I would grow up in with my mom and my two uncles. My childhood was beautiful, unlike anything people would imagine in Inglewood. I played outside every day. I rode my bike with my friends. I met my first friends in life, one of them named Raymond. Him and I would go to the corner store every day for cookies, pickles, and chips. Even my grandmother's best friend, Miss Patterson, lived right next door. She had the same migration story. Every summer, Miss Patterson would make homemade ice cream and sell it to the kids for 25 cents. It was also on this block that I started high school. I started going to Lane Tech High School. And for those that don't know, it's a selective enrollment high school 15 miles north of Inglewood. And it's very diverse, with a student body of 4,000 students. But every day, I would have to be at the bus stop by 5:45 a.m. just reflections of me, but from all over the city, from neighborhoods I had never even heard of. I had a friend named Steve Zhukevich. We had algebra class together, and we talked about hip hop every day. But his name was the first Polish name I had ever said. And then I met my first group of Latino friends from neighborhoods like Humboldt Park and Wicker Park, even back in the yards. And they were the ones that taught me the cultural difference between being Puerto Rican and Mexican. And they told me that I better not ever get it confused. Then I had my friends who are Asian, who taught me the difference between being Chinese and Korean, letting me know that all Chinese people don't speak Chinese. They speak Mandarin too. And then I met a group of friends who I thought were black like me, who lived on Chicago's north side. And then I would come to find out that they were first generation immigrants from countries like Belize, Panama, Jamaica, countries that I had never even heard of. And then there were the friends who were black like me, but from a whole nother side of the city called the West Side. I didn't even know what the West Side was, and they specifically told me it's from Cicero to Laramie and Laramie on down. And then I have my friends who were Filipino. I mistakenly thought they were Latino, and they were the ones to tell me, no, we are not. This is what we did every day for 4 years, getting to know each other's culture, each other's neighborhoods. And at this time, hip hop was thriving in Chicago, so we went to hip hop parties all over Chicago, getting to know each other's neighborhoods. And we quickly learned that the way that you truly get to know a location is through your friendships, through your relationships. And what we also realized was how segregated Chicago is. This map that you're looking at is what Chicago's segregation looks like. Chicago is one of the most segregated cities in our country. And it's been that way since before my grandmother came. The blue that you see on this map, those are the neighborhoods that are predominantly black. The pink, purplish that you see, those are the neighborhoods that are predominantly white. And the orange that you see, those are the neighborhoods that are predominantly Latino. And the neon green that you see in the center of the map and speckled throughout the top, those are the neighborhoods that are predominantly Asian. And as I thought about my commute and how everything looked so different from the South Side compared to the North Side neighborhood that my high school was in, I came to realize that I was riding through Chicago's segregation. And that's when I started to understand the connection between race, geography, and Chicago's segregation. So that's just a little bit about. That's not even the whole thing. You can go on YouTube if you want to see the rest, or my IG handle is Tonika J, and I'll send it to you. But as you can see, that's my upbringing, and that is my experience being a South Sider. So I love my neighborhood. I love the South Side. I love the North Side of Chicago. I love its diversity. So obviously, people getting told to not visit an entire half of the city was really problematic for me. And I knew that it was something that I wanted to help people tackle in a way that could connect. And so that's what made this topic really important to me. And so now I want to hand it over to my friend and co-author, Dr. Maria Creason, so she can share with you her story and how this topic became important to her as well.
So I don't have a fancy movie to show you, so you're going to have to suffer through my words. I am a professor, so I write and I read, but I did dig through my scrapbook to find some pictures to give you a sense of how different, and then there's some similarities that the upbringing that I had was and how it fed into why I'm here and have written this book with Tonika. So in 1968, I was 2. My family moved to Brookings, South Dakota. Brookings is very small. I think I was in middle school before we got our first McDonald's. And to be honest, there's only one in our town to this day. Brookings is also predominantly, overwhelmingly white. According to the 1970 census, of the 13,717 people living in Brookings, 3 were black. My schools were almost entirely white. Not only were there no black students in my 187 student graduating class in 1984, but there were none at all in the high school. The railroad tracks right behind our house accommodated freight trains that came through twice a day. There was no need for passenger trains, buses, cabs, or any public transportation. This was way, way, way before Uber and Lyft. We lived in a small ranch-style home on a tree-lined street. My 2 older brothers teased me relentlessly. The town had 2 elementary schools, 1 middle school, and 1 high school, all public. My brothers and I could probably have walked the 2 miles to our elementary school or later high school, which was only a mile away, but we didn't. Mostly our mom drove us because, well, it was South Dakota and the weather is not kind there. I was not a rebel. I was a nerd. That is something that Tonika and I have in common. One of my favorite things to do was lie on my bed and read books. I loved Laura Ingalls Wilder and Little House on the Prairie for obvious geographical reasons, but I hated Nancy Drew. She was way too serious. Bobbsey Twins and Trixie Belden were more my style. I played clarinet in the band and our school's 2 musicals, Fiddler on the Roof and Man of La Mancha. I was in the pit crew. I also played the saxophone in the marching and jazz bands, swam competitively, and was a member of the theater crew. I played basketball and threw the shot put. I don't really remember when I first thought about what I thought about black people. The mother of one of my friends taught at a boarding school for Native Americans in a nearby town, and she was probably the first person to talk to me about concrete examples of inequity and social injustice. I'll always remember the first time she called me plucky. I thought maybe she was making fun of my physique. But when I got home, I looked up the word in the dictionary and was relieved to see that plucky means brave, feisty, or spirited, which didn't seem true at the time when I was a 6th grader or 7th grader, but I've tried to grow into the label. It wasn't until college as a sociology major that I probably first started to have organized thoughts around race. And I remember they tied back to my upbringing. What does race consciousness about black people look like in a town like Brookings? And what does your race consciousness look like if you've grown up in a town like that? It was pretty clear to me what I was supposed to think about Native Americans since we lived in South Dakota, home of 9 Indian reservations, including some of the largest in the country. Notably, though, none of the students in my school were Native American. In fact, I'm pretty sure I never met a Native American person in my childhood. But that didn't stop us from having lots of problematic stereotypes. So fast forward, I'd have to say my career studying race, racial attitudes, and residential segregation was sparked by that kernel of a question about how race did or didn't play out in my little white town on the prairie. So I grew up in small town middle America, graduated from Stanford University, earned a PhD in sociology from the University of Michigan, and have spent the last 25 years as a professor at the University of Illinois in Chicago when I moved to Chicago 25 years ago. I know how to conduct sophisticated surveys and interview studies to unpack racial attitudes and dissect the processes responsible for segregation. I published a book, The Cycle of Segregation, that offered a new theory on why our cities are still so segregated. It won academic awards, and its ideas may have trickled even into the world of policies and practices. But what I'm most grateful for is that it also was indirectly responsible for introducing me to Tanika Johnson. And my gratitude comes from the fact that despite my academic accolades and accomplishments, I felt like something was missing. I was starting to worry that I was going to become a grumpy old professor. This was because as a sociology professor, I was primarily focusing on the macro and offering ideas about institutional changes. And I started to feel at my point in my career that I wanted to do more to help people connect the dots between those big systemic structures I'd studied and their own lives. And then I met an artist, and everything changed. I had the great good fortune and honor to meet Tanika, and she started to let me play in her sandbox. And in doing so, I could start to see how I could move my sociological practice out of the ivory tower and into the streets, and perhaps help people shift their perspectives and generate personal breakthroughs, those breakthroughs that need to happen in order to create the systemic changes that I've studied and hoped for. Enter the Don't Go project. Okay, it stopped working. Nope, there, okay, whoops. Ah. Clearly technology's not my friend today. One more, okay, there, that's what I want. I got it, thank you. See, she's also my IT support staff. So you can read the book. You can read the book to find the full story of this story, but what you need to know for now is that the Don't Go project is based on about 30 conversations Tanika and I had with Chicagoans, lifelong residents and transplants, who had either been told not to go to the South or West Sides, or who lived in the neighborhoods that people are told not to go to. They were men, women, younger, middle-aged, older, white, black, Latinx, biracial, immigrants, employed, unemployed, social workers, IT professionals, small business owners, piano tuners, artists, and parents. And the gist of the conversation was, so you tell us you've been told don't go to the South or the West Sides. Discuss. We were a black artist and a white sociologist having wide-ranging conversations with complete strangers about Chicago, segregation, and race on Zoom from April to August of 2020. From April to August of 2020. And we were hearing stories of fear of all kinds. We were learning about the various don't go messengers. We were witnessing the harmful shortcuts our brains use, and we were seeing the hurt they caused and how healing could happen. Once we hit about 30 people, we realized that together these conversations could tell a compelling story of how don't go messages perpetuate segregation. And it could be told through the stories of the people who send, upend, and get hurt by those messages. And importantly and optimistically, the stories could showcase everyday people who disrupt segregation in all kinds of everyday ways. And although we didn't know what we were going to do when we started having those crazy Zoom conversations during the pandemic, by the end we knew we had to share their stories. We couldn't keep them to ourselves. And we knew it had to be a book, so we wrote one. As a way to dive into the book, we first want you to take a look at one of our storytellers, Adrienne, who appeared on a WTTW Chicago Tonight program. And this was before we had a book, but after the Don't Go interviews had happened. Here's what she said about what it felt like to be interviewed and to be part of the conversations that Tanika and I had with her. Okay, how do I make it go? How do I make the video go? Oh, there it is.
And Adrienne, since participating in this project, give us a quick sense of how you sort of participate in changing the narrative.
Since this project, I've gone to the South Side a few times. I've seen for myself that the things that, the don't go to the South Side narrative is not true, and I've been trying to unlearn that behavior. I have a storefront here on the North Side, and for a while I was inviting Black artists to come to my shop and show their work and sell their work so that they could see my neighborhood, but also so my neighbors could meet them and start to maybe form some relationships between North and South Side and break up the segregation and the narrative that has been so prominent in the city.
And Tanika, we're almost out of time, but obviously.
Mic check one. Okay. So now that you've heard a little bit about Maria and I, and what the book is about, what led us to want to tackle this topic, now we're going to include you, okay? What better way to give you an understanding of the book than to have you all read a little bit of it? So I am going to invite someone to read Adrienne's story so now you can understand why she responded that way. So I'm going to need a volunteer that is comfortable reading this story. I'm not, I can't. I need you to pick. We're we have more. We have more. We have more. We have more exits. I love the cheering. I love the cheering. You can either read from the screen or read this, whichever one.
Shortly after I bought my new car when I was 17, I drove down to see my grandma, who lives in Beverly. I got off at the wrong exit. We didn't have Google Maps or anything like that, and I didn't know where I was. So I called my grandparents to ask for directions. They lost it. They said I was in a very dangerous place. They were so freaked out for me. And then I got freaked out too. When I finally got to my grandparents' house, they were really mad, so I was really scared. Now, I'm 34 years old, and I had never, ever gone to any place on the south side other than my grandma's house. So I started to get off the highway at places I was told to never, ever go. It was not what I thought. It's just neighborhoods and nice homes. I was angry that I just blindly believed everything I was taught.
What's your name? Ella. Well, because Ella was our first reader, she's going to get a copy of the book. There you go. All right. We have another story to share. Oh, and look. Well, it's an Ava. Who is going, and you do not have to look like Ava to read her story, okay? So I'm going to let you pick. Oh, that's fine. I like the sharing. Yeah. Sean. Now I get to say, okay, Sean, you got to bring it, because the way they were telling us to pick you, you got to. Is he a theater major? Is he going to really like.
I mean, he's a really good speaker.
Oh.
He was on the stage earlier this week. That's how
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Would you want to read from the screen or here? Whichever one. Okay, there you go. Oh, serious.
I think about growing up in this predominantly white suburb of Chicago and watching local news and Chicago-based TV channels. The crime reporting is so heavily focused on the South Side that I feel like the fear of the neighborhoods just slowly worms its way into your brain. I started a job in Eaglewood at a nonprofit at Kennedy King College when I was 21 years old. Even though I worked there in the middle of the day, my family, my friends, even my peers were like, be careful and don't wear anything flashy. For a while, I had to admit I was scared to get on the CTA train, and the warnings made me second guess my decision to take this job. But after taking a train for just 1 week, I felt business as usual. Obviously, nothing was happening. It was just a regular living and going to work. Also, the people in Eaglewood were way friendlier than the people in my north side neighborhood. After a while, the warnings started to annoy me. I wanted to say something like, when's the last time you were there? Oh, person who's warning me about this neighborhood you probably never haven't been in.
Because you're going to get a copy of the book as well. Thank you. Amazing job. All right. Who's going to read Tom? Oh, red sweatshirt. Okay, come on down. I feel like I should have some music. And what's your name? Lucas is going to read Tom's story.
When I was a kid, we mostly went to places on the north side. I remember the general ominous feeling as we would drive towards Kaminsky Park on the south side for a Sox game. The comments about how the neighborhood got bad. I remember being like, oh my God, where are we going? As a child, I'm like, okay, I gotta keep my shit together while we're in this place. And so we'd park somewhere and just sort of rush in this little group to the park. We were probably holding hands, at least while I was young, all huddled together in a defensive little pack, rushing to safety. I remember we were going to the Museum of Science and Industry, and we got off the interstate going west instead of east towards the museum. We ended up in the south side neighborhood instead of the museum campus. We saw only black people, and we drove through the neighborhood, and someone in the car said, "Lock your doors. Are the doors locked in the car? Avoid making eye contact."
Thank you. Don't go away. Don't go away. We're going to give you a copy of the book for that amazing read. Two more. Who's going to read Leslie? I'm not picking. How do you teachers do this? Okay, you'll be our last. Yeah. Okay, what's your name? Emily. Don't go away, gray shirt. Don't go away. Come here. Emily is going to read Leslie's story. What? Be quiet now. Emily's gonna read. Okay.
Okay. When I got to Concordia University, Chicago in 2012, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm here. I'm in college. This is unreal to me. At college orientation, I mingled with a group of other Latinx students from the North Side. We had never met. And as soon as I said that I grew up in Humboldt Park and that I lived in Nacicero, I was categorized as an outsider, as a dangerous person from the hood. I didn't know this at the time, but my address told people how they should talk to me, about me, and at me. Another layer is to add on if you talk about what schools you come from. I was looked at like a wild child from coming from Chicago public schools instead of a private or charter school. They were surprised to learn that I had aced my math placement because it was complicated what they thought they knew about CPS and the West Side. I just want to ask people, do you really want to know about me, or do you just want to confirm what you've been told about people like me?
Got some great readers. And you get a copy of the book. Thank you. All right. Come on. Okay, what's your name? Lucas? Oh, another Lucas. Lance? Oh, your last name is Nance. Okay, got you. Well, hello. You are going to read. Now look, you got to bring it because, Jerry, this is one of my favorite stories, okay? So you got it? Yep, you got to hold it. Or do you want to put it up here? Okay. All right.
I distinctly remember going to Inglewood on the bus for the first time. I had a strong sense that I was this white dude on the bus full of all black people. I had to get off the bus and stand at at an intersection waiting for the next bus.
Can you all hear him?
Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry.
Okay, because I told you. This is my favorite story now. You need to, take it easy. You need some water?
No, I'm good.
Are you good?
I'm good. I distinctly remember going to Inglewood on the bus for the first time. I had a strong sense.
See, look, now he got the giggles, and now he's not. Let's get his back up just in case. Who's good? If he get one more chance if you mess this up. Who's going?
He's next. Tafika, you're next.
We have his back up. How about this? We're gonna do one paragraph. Yeah, we're gonna split. While you.
You want to give me one more chance?
No, we are. You're gonna read the second one.
Okay, I'll read it. All right.
Yes. We have another story. No, Lucas, come here. He's, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna let you all. All right, you listening? All of you all. We're gonna see if he can. Oh, he said no. She said he gonna have the giggles. He can't do it. Okay, all right. So we're gonna have you start. You read this first paragraph, and then you read this one and this. All right, now this is my favorite story. Get it? Okay. And what's your name? Tafika. And what's yours? Arnab. Okay, perfect. There you go.
I distinctly remember going to Inglewood on the bus for the first time. I had a strong sense that I was this white dude on this bus full of black people. I had to get off the bus and stand at the intersection waiting for the next bus. You're not so worried about something happening to you on a bus. But a white dude standing on an intersection, I remember being like, okay, when they say stuff happens, this is where it goes down. This is it. This is where it happens. Text mama and tell her you love her. But it turns out it's really uneventful.
Eventually, I realized. Eventually, I realized that the black people on the bus weren't focused on me. They don't care. Part of the whiteness seems to be that you think that everyone gives a damn. Like you think that when you're in these spaces, black folks can't help but be like, oh, who's this guy? I wonder why he's here. But black people have their own lives. They don't care why you're there. And they certainly don't care about you waiting for a bus. They don't care about you sitting on a bus. Seriously, you could write a Dr. Seuss book about this.
Thank you. And you're going to get a book. Thank you for our amazing readers. All right. All right, gave us a little razzle dazzle. Okay, so I think now that you all have a little insight to what the book is about, we're going to open it up for some questions or reflections because we have been talking to you for a little bit, and so I want to give you a chance, about 30 seconds, to sit and think about how hearing these stories made you feel, what it made you think about, and also if you have any questions for Maria and I. And the questions could be about the topic, it could be about the process, but I am going to give you just a few seconds to process everything and to raise your hand to respond. Oh, we have, okay. And look, all of the mics that we have, we gotta tell them to turn one on. Turn one of them on. I don't know how we cue up.
Hello? Hello?
Maybe turn mic 1 on. Is that the best way to? Okay.
We could just shout it out too.
Or how about this? I'll bring. Who has a question?
I got it, Tanika.
Oh, okay. She's gonna. Okay.
All right, are we asking down here?
Yes.
All right, what you got?
For Tanika, I was wondering if you got like a good food spot in Inglewood that would like break through the stereotypical responses that would really show like the culture of the town that you're from.
Oh, could you let me see if I heard this question right? You want me to share with you
A response when someone says something?
a typical response that I give?
No, just like a good like a recommendation of food you recommend someone to go.
Oh, a recommendation to somewhere to. Well, first off, if you want to go, well, let me answer that by saying Inglewood is one of many neighborhoods on the South Side. So I actually have suggestions of a lot of different neighborhoods on the South Side. And I would say the neighborhood right across the street from me is where one of my favorite go-to vegan restaurants is. So I'm just gonna think of that, even though that's not in Greater Inglewood. It is literally right across the street, and it's called So Vegetarian. So if you would love some good vegan soul food, go to So Vegetarian because it is one of the oldest vegan restaurants in Chicago. It's been there for a few decades, one of the first ones, so that's one of my suggestions. But then we also have this lovely, look at that, Maria, look. We have a lovely list of places you should go on the south side of Chicago. So we will share this. I might even post it on my Instagram. And then you could go look at my stories, and then you'll have a long list.
Thank you so much. Come on up and talk to them if you have those questions.